Alright, try this one more time. Resetting the connection again. Alright, so now we're live. I think I didn't have enough B frames, or the keyframes weren't being set. The connection again. Okay, that sounds better again. I think there was some weird audio. I think I didn't have enough. There was an audio issue. I think the audio routing got screwed up with all my playing around with configuration. So also the laptop was going nuts, overheating. I'm looping, really? Am I still looping? I did have the speaker on for a moment. Yeah, I think I was monitoring through the external speakers. And that was the issue. I think. Okay, that's good. Yeah, I think I was monitoring through the external speakers. I might have to switch to this other microphone. Actually, why is it even... Okay. Why am I even using this microphone? Alright, so, okay. After all this trouble, what are we doing today? I need to work on some network debugging. So today we are doing something technical. Let me turn off this. And let's see. I need to reset my preferences here for the accessibility, because it keeps resetting the zoom. Where's the zoom? Picture in picture, more options, adjust size and position. This should be on this side. It should be full screen. This is an accessibility feature in Mac OS X that allows me to do things like zoom, since I'm running it in this smaller size here. Although I'm not sure why I keep switching back to it. So anyway, what are we doing today? I'm going to try to do some billable work. And this billable work is fixing some server crashes. And it's just weird and enough that I'm not particularly looking forward to it, because, you know, I'm not sure what's causing the crash, and we're going to have to do a little bit of investigation to try to figure out what's causing it. I have some ideas. So I guess the first step is just to try to reproduce it. Am I in the live stream chat? Let me go into live stream. Okay, are we live? Hopefully that's appearing now in, yep. Okay, that's working now. All right, so let's run this server. This is for the this National Science Foundation project that I'm working on. I'm not one of the researchers, but I'm doing some of the support program through another company, Aquarium, out in California. And this is my main contract at the moment. And so this is using, basically it's a JavaScript HTML project that integrates with a motion tracking system and draws graphics based on what's tracked in the space. Inside the space are a number of kindergartners running around hugging each other, and the teachers are trying to convey science concepts to them using their mysterious kid wrangling abilities. It is widely believed that kids this age are not capable of learning science concepts, hence the research of engaging, what's it called? The first project was called STEP, which stood for Science Through Technology Enhanced Play. So that's, the technology is where I'm coming in. The extension to the project is called PLAE, P-L-A-E, which is promoting learning through annotated engagement or something like that. So the idea is that you have kids running around, but now for the kids who aren't running around, what do you give them to do? You give them the observer task. And so that's what the annotations are. So they are seeing what's happening, and they are making annotations about what are happening, and then what happens is it's supposed to. Then they can talk about it with the teacher. So there's the need that is there is to be able to for the teacher to review what's been annotated in context with what transpired over the past 5 minutes, which means we need replay capability, which is part of the extension of this project. So what I'm doing here is there's a separate engine that we've been working on, which is the HTML5 JavaScript component that is running off of a Node Express server. And I was not familiar with Node or writing JavaScript in this fashion when I started this 2 years ago, but now I am passably familiar with it. And some of the extension code I wrote to add new features to the server and implement something called live reload is not working correctly, and I'm not sure why. I hear a bedoing noise. Who bedoinged? Oh, the bedoing is gone. Let's see. What was I doing? So let me just run the server. I think part of the issue was I switched from a build environment called Mimosa. Did I freeze? No. A build environment called Mimosa, which is handles things like compiling from the source files, or rather gathering all the JavaScript source files and collecting them in a directory that the web server, the local web server, which is the Node Express server, can serve files from. But then I switched to a build tool called Gulp, which is cool because it's a JavaScript-based configurable program, unlike Mimosa, which is this kind of monolithic approach. It's not as bad as Grunt is, but it's better documented, I think. But I thought Gulp would be a good way of extending my JavaScript capabilities, which means, of course, I need to figure out how to make some of these recreate some of the capabilities that were in Mimosa in the first place. And so this is like the game demo. This is the engine part of the system, and I'm doing my changes in here. So this is using a graphics library called 3JS. I just wrote code that will allow it to extend like the size of it, because we have to make these run as individual web apps. So our system isn't using any of these features, but the server is built into this. So it has some various scaling routines that are built in different modes. Now the trick is to get this thing to crash, and it seems to crash when I'm reloading several times. So let me see if I can get that to happen. How can I do this? Because I need actually a bunch of screens to even run this all at the same time. So let me set this one up to here. I guess on this screen, this is where we're going to show show what's happening. So I'll run the server on the PC here. Oops. Localhost 3000. Nope, there's no fake track on that. So the cool thing about this project is that it's networked, or the server can be accessed from multiple computers. That's the way the architecture is set up. So what I can do on this side now is get the source code open, and start just trying to make this thing crash. It seems to be related to the live reload function. So let me look at demo here. I don't know if anyone can see that. I apologize, it is kind of small. And over on this side here, what I want to be able to do is reload the screen reload a source file a lot of times until the thing crashes. I think it's related to the way that I'm respawning the server on live reload, and it's creating multiple instances of the server that are not entirely shutting down. And so I'm not sure how to test this, but let's see if we can just get it to crash. It seems to crash after about 2 minutes. It could be some sort of weird timeout that's happening, but I don't know. So let me find this. I'm running demo. So in my module format, that's under this. Game run is a file that loads up the initial modules. It's all modular JavaScript. Kind of a homegrown version of it. So if I save this, that'll cause the screen on the right here to reload. And then down here, this area here, we should see a crash. You can see it says reloading assets, blah, 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 game run. So every time I save this, I saved it once, saved it twice, it's reloading, saved it 3 times. So there's 3 maybe instances running. I guess one thing I could try to do is get a activity monitor. Can I? So let me make some notes down here, I think. So what causes a crash? I think it might be due to instances of the Express server not being completely closed down before relaunching. The error I see is E address in use, or something like that, crashing the node server after it just sits for a while. So far nothing is happening. I mean, I'm sort of watching this to see if it will crash, but probably what I need to do is like force it to serve another file. Let me see if I refresh this, if that causes anything to happen. Refresh once, refresh twice, refresh 3 times, refresh 4 times. I mean, this is just loading files from the server, so it's probably not going to stress it out, but who knows? It is making socket connections every time that happens. Could an internal resource be running out? Is there some kind of resource limit in Express or Node that I'm hitting? Okay, so that didn't seem to be doing anything, so let me just try saving this a bunch of times again. Save. Save. Watch, it won't crash anymore. That's 6 times. 7 times. 8 times. Let's see. This seems to be getting kind of slow. Let me make some space here. Say one more time. Starting copy assets, finish copy assets, reload. How am I restarting the server? Maybe I shouldn't. What I'm trying to get it to do is not only reload the source files, but also reload the Express files. Server side files too. And I might be doing it the wrong way. I'm actually calling the Express launch code directly rather than using process exec, which is a system level call. Process exec might be the way to do it rather than trying to call it from within gulp. I thought it could call it from within gulp because gulp is running under node and therefore has the access to the entire node environment. But maybe that's a bad idea. Still not crashing. This is irritating. I notice it seems to happen after a bunch of times. Oh, there it does. It just crashed. What did it do? Warning, possible event emitter memory leak detected. 11 closed listeners added. Set emitter max listeners to increase limit. This is not the error that I've been seeing, though. Let's just copy that into this. It's happening at server add listener. This is not within my code, but it's being called at start server. Notify object live reload in my gulp file. So that's my code. And this code up here, this is in 1401 line 72. And everything before that is within the gulp task runner. Gulp task runner. It's calling run sequence and emit once. Gulp emit. So I guess the thing to do would be to look at my gulp file, I think. Gulp, it's a 1401 server. That would be under server 1401. And let's take a look at this. Let me go to one layout single. So here's the file here. I think I can make this bigger. Yeah, I know this is boring, right? So it's, what did I say? It was in, oh, I lost my note thing. View layout rows 2, and was it this one? Nope. I don't think I need that anymore. Is it this one? Nope. That was an example of something else. Was it this one? This I still need. Oh, here's it. What causes the server crash? So according to this, I was looking at line 72 of 1401 JS. This is a good opportunity to even look at how to do debugging of node processes. I'm not sure how that works. I know you can run something called, you run a remote debugger and then get more explicit runtime status, while the server is actually running. So there's a lot of kind of explorative learning that has to happen. All right, so I think one thing I need to do is I start asking myself questions. Question, what is the logic in start server? 1401 JS start server. And what is the end? What does it do here? Let's actually go back to my other view again. Layout, columns 2, or grid 4. And move this back in here. Let's get this down here. Let's shrink this text so it's not ridiculously large. And let's make this full screen so I have the full use of the screen real estate. Because I will need to cross-reference things. Let's move this up here. No, that can stay down there. So here in 1401 start server, who calls that start server? Who calls start server? The idea, what does start server even do? Start server accept a configuration object. So what it does is an instance of server already running. Anyway, if the server instance exists, it returns true. If it's false, then it returns start server. If not, return the value from start express. This is the express server. And then it nulls out apps. Otherwise, if yes, then attempt to shut down the server and then call start express. That's a little bit hinky logic wise. Who calls start server? This is called by the gulp file run server. gulp file run server calls start server. Start server. This is in 1401 start server. Until I shut them, then let's do this. Shut the server. Call start express on async success. I wonder if server close doesn't actually. Maybe it returns a status code and I'm not checking. It looks like let's start express. Let's see what it does too. Start express. This is code that sort of evolved from the example server code. So I'm not a little surprised. App, global app equal to express, which creates an express app. This is express startup code. Compression, body parser, cookie parser, app use error handler. I don't think I'm actually setting an environment variable. How do you set an environment value in Node? What are best practices? Just running down lists of questions here in the lower left to see what's happening. This is serving static files. It's setting up a router. The router determines what function gets run based on the URL that's passed in. What does this do? This is a live reload. So if it's a get, the router sees that it routes it to this anonymous function. With the request, it grabs out of here, grabs the live reload port, appends. That's weird. Oh, let's see what it's doing. I'm curious what this full URL is. It's rendering res render index. What does this do? What I think it's doing is it's defining a path, the base faction. The URL is the request protocol, which would be something like HTTP, plus the things at the end. Then it adds the host name, which should be whatever was passed along. Then the port, which is the config live reload port. Where is that passed along? Oh, it's here. Is it? Wait, where's config set? Config is a global, it looks like. Yep. So that should be set here. And then it calls res render, which I believe was taking an index and it's passing these variables. I believe that it's passing these as JavaScript values. Res render index should be pulling the index.hbs file, which would be in server views index HBS. Let's take a look at that. Maybe this is what's passing along these values. Reload, optimize. Yeah, I think that's what it's doing. Reload, config live reload, reload.js. Doesn't seem to be used anywhere. It's weird. Where is it? Reload. Oh, there it is. So if reload is not set, Is that what the number is? No, wait. Or if it is... This is handlebars template. I'm not familiar with the syntax. I think this means if it is set. And this might be if it's not set. So if the reload, if there's a value with reload, and reload would be set to config live reload. What's in config live reload? An object. Enabled. So there's a bunch of settings, I guess. And did I write this code, or was this something I copy and pasted from someplace? So what does this do? If optimize... So it's passing along values that it received. Reload.js is the address of the... I think I wrote this. Although I don't remember remembering that I knew how this worked. So if its reload is set, then it includes a script called reload.js, which is what's supposed to communicate back to the live reload port, which has its own listener that forces the browser to reload itself. And it emits all this stuff. This is something I added. If there is a function called server init hook, then you can call it, and it passes along the app implication. But where is this being set? I guess we need to look to see who's calling start express. Oh, that's start server. Start server is being called by the gulp file run, so we should look at that. Let's put it here on the right. I said it's called run server. And what does this do? Server instance is equal to server 1401. Gulp file run server. What does this do? Save server instance. Oh wait. From server 1401 start server. Server 1401 equals... What is that? Server 1401 is server, okay. Server 1401 equals require server 1401. So remember what that is. So the very first time this is run, I think server instance is used to check if server is running. Yes, logic is all convoluted. And then what it does is it call server 1401 start live reload. Then it sets watch assets plus modules and run sequence copy assets followed by notify live reload. Server 14.1 notify live reload. What does server 1401 notify live reload do? It's over here. Notify live reload. It gets an event. Where's this event coming from? Run sequences path, nope, event Alright, so the event object is gotten from a watch. When watch sees a change happening, event holds the changes, I think. Yeah. So it's notifying who got changed. So this might be running multiple times. Well, I guess that would make sense. So it grabs the file name, pull file name of changed file from event object, call tinylr changed to tell it to do what? This is running the server. It's pushing it somehow? Then it calls start server again. But start server is part of 14.01. So when a file changes, it calls tinylr change. What I'm guessing that script does, question. How does tinylr work? What I believe it does is it listens, the server listens to what? What's it listening to? Reload port. It is listening. Notify live reload happens when? That happens when a watch changes? Yeah. Live reload port is listening to that. What's tinylr listen? Listens to this port, and when something happens, I think this is just like success for connection. And reports when connected. I wonder if that's where the problem is. How many times am I calling start live reload? Just once, I hope. Oops. Start live reload. Yeah, just the one time in run server. But notify live reload on server, notify live reload gets the changed file. Start reload, start live reload. Server 14, notify live reload. What does this do? Gets changed file name, calls tinylr changed, with lists of changed files. Presumably that tells the WebSocket to reload it. Presumably it writes to socket client browser to tell it to reload a JavaScript. I wonder if it's maybe that's the issue. And then it calls start server, which from what we have here does all this stuff. So I guess the question is, every time notify live reload happens, this is triggered by a save, triggered by gulp watch. I heard a booping noise again. Who booped? Someone in the works log? Let's check in to see what... Checking the co-working chat room to see what people are talking about. Where was I here? I got changed files. Call start server. So it's saved. It calls start express start server. Then it tries to call start express again. Let's wait. Did I finish documenting that? 14.1 start express. It's here. And what does it do? This recreates and routing stuff. Does it not shut it down first? Wait, I thought I did do that. Start express, start server. These are terrible names. Start server is it here? No, this is 14.1, so it's just above it if I recall. So start server tries to close the server. What is server an instance of? Where is server saved? Ugh. Server is returned by act listen. Okay, so server or app listen or express app listen return. What does it do? And let me get a browser now. Server app listen. Might just had a big mind for it. So maybe I'm big in this. This over here. What was I doing again? I was looking for express app listen. Express.js app listen. Thank goodness for the internet. We can look up stuff and hopefully it's not hideously out of date. I want a what is this? Where is this? Express.js Korean? API HTML. Someone wrote something in live stream. Mind fart, such a technical term. Yes. Quite technical. Yeah, I started thinking about what that meant. How could it be technical? So I was looking for listen, app listen. What does app listen actually return? This is a nice looking documentation. App listen 3000. The app returned by express is a JavaScript function. Does app listen actually return anything? No, it returns an HTTP server object. What the hell is that? It inherits from net service and has the additional events. Event check continue, event client error, event close, emitted when the server closes. Stops the server from accepting new connections. Also see net server close. What is net server? Is that some node thing? Oh, what's this deprecated stuff? Optional callback will be called once the close event occurs. Unlike that event, it will be called with an error as its only argument if the server is not open when it was closed. I don't even know what that means. Don't close server address. Okay, oh, this is net server. What is net server part of? That's part of the node documentation. Express is built on top of node to simplify stuff. I wonder if I should have been learning how to use that directly instead of using Express. Anyway, I just lost where I was again. App listen. This returns an instance, an HTTP server object. It's a convenience method for the following. What does this do? It creates, okay, app listen creates a server, and then it returns the result of the listen function with server as its local object context, whatever arguments come from it. So app listen is returning, oh wait, no, app listen function. Where is this port being passed in? App listen port. Oh, arguments. So it calls server listen. Okay, so HTTP server calls HTTP server listen. So HTTP server listen. Server listen looks at a bunch of things. Listen, handle, callback. Accept a connection from a specified handle. The callback will be added as a listener for the listening event. What version are we using? We're using this one, I think. Port. Still listen to, what is it? Callback will be added. What's backlog? As a listener for the listening event. Listening. Alright, so I think what this is doing, app listen port. What this does is creates an HTTP server object. And an HTTP server object, what is it able to do? This. Let's look at the base. It's used to create a TCP or local server. It's an event emitter. Net created server. So then you call a bunch of things like server on, I guess. Server listen, server. This documentation is quite a bit less nicely formatted. So, okay, net server, event. So these are the commands. Listen, max connections, max unreference. So one issue I have with a lot of technical documentation is that they list all the functions, but they don't group them by what's the major function and what's the supporting function. So you're looking at this list, you don't know which one of them is important, unless you know something about server architectures. I don't know a whole lot about server architectures, but I guess the point of a server is to listen, so I'm guessing that these are the key ones. So each of them probably is some sort of dispatching method. It's telling it to listen to these things for any kind of TCP connections, but how does it know what to do once it happens? the listening event is emitted. How does it know? How does it know? One issue some use. This is what the address I get. Another server is already running on the. One way of handling this will be to wait another second and try again. That might be actually what I need. Server on error. I'm going to copy this. Put it here. I still don't know how this express thing works though. So let's say you've connected. Oh, this might be the thing. The connection object. Emitted when a new connection is made. So you're creating a server. This is arrow function. This is an anonymous function. I think this is some EC6 thing. I wasn't very fond of this syntax. So what it does, it creates a server. On error does this. Grab random part. Server listen. Console log open. Oh, that's I'm looking at the wrong thing. Server connect. Emitted when. How do you add the? Yeah, this is documentation that's technically correct, but doesn't really do a good job of describing the interconnections of the data structures in their hierarchy. It's always an issue I have with this stuff. Now, sometimes, like the use of the example, someone writes what those are. So let's look at this example. Server listen, blah, blah, blah. You create a server, request response. How does this actually do anything? Oh, so it creates a server and then I guess this provides a callback function. I do not like this arrow syntax stuff. Res. When you call create server. Alright, so what listen does is it just connects the server. So you configure the server first and then you tell it to listen to a port. And then this message handler probably actually takes care of stuff. So let's look at create server. Now what's all this stuff? Server response, incoming message, create server. So it creates a new instance of create server. So you provide a request listener. The listener, what does the listener get? What does the listener get? Why is this so difficult? There is one create server. What is a request listener? A function that automatically is added to the request event. And what is the request event? And connect. Oh, that's. I think what they mean by that is. Create server. Request result. There's probably more fancier examples of this create server. This is let's see if we can find an example using node create server. That's probably what all the fancy stuff in Express does. It probably handles all the routing for you. That's probably what the route module does. No site point. Prepare to be disappointed. So here's an example of a perfectly trivial and not very insightful example. Like 80% of the internet. Create server, no, callback argument, the call is exit, every time it receives a new request, the response. So the idea is like a packet comes in, you do something with it, and you send the packet out. This is not helpful. I want an example of create server. Here. This is using the old style format with this arrow function crap. HTTP object server create a vendor function request. So I guess you could parse the request itself and do something cool with it. So you could write a big ass case statement. Or what's this? What's all this stuff? Request on, what is this? Oh, on request. Oh, wait a moment. This looks like another way of doing it. So instead of passing it the callback handler inside create server, this is specifying it as an event emitter. That kind of makes sense. Let's paste this. I'm just pasting code fragments in here to review. You want to look at the method and the URLs. What's the method? Normal HTTP. Oh, get. Okay. All right. So you can look at the HTTP protocol request, and then you can do something cool with it. Request body. You know it's going to be a string. Collect an array, and at the end concatenate and stringify it. All right. So I guess the transaction can occur multiple synchronous times. Okay, that's something I didn't know. It's also a stream, which is something I have not worked with before. It's a programming concept that seemed like a pain in the ass, so I never paid attention to it. Primarily because the documentation was so obtuse. It wasn't like an elegant expression of like what the ideal stream would do. This is where the English major wannabe in me gets confused by technical writing. Alright. Create server function request response. Headers, method, this request on error. What? So this is the callback handler. This should get called every time something happens. And what it's doing is piling something onto the request object it receives back. So this is... Alright, this is actually interesting. That tells me something about how Node works. So on create server, you're passing it this function. This function is invoked every time a connection is, an HTTP connection is created. Create server makes an instance of HTTP server. And then for each incoming transaction, it's its own unique request. And you have to deal with it explicitly. Handle any errors, concatenate any data, And then when you have the incomplete body of the request, then you're ready to process it. I'm just looking at the response stuff. So here we can see beginning of new stuff. Response on error. You set up an analyzer response code. So you're changing the response packet. You're creating a body. You're writing to the stream. That's interesting. Now, this is a good example. I like this. I am bookmarking it. I'll just paste this. Anatomy of a node server request. And this was located here. So this is an echo server. Alright, so that's, at least that clears up some stuff. So where was I now? How does this change my insight? The question I had before was whether or not the way I was closing this, there was two issues. I was having that error on use thing. And it suggested waiting a second and trying again. But I'm also getting this particular error, which is the memory leak, event emitter memory leak. What is an emitter set max listeners? Let's search on that and see contextually what people are talking about when they're using this function. Let's see what this says. Create server function blah blah blah. How to fix this? That's not helpful. So it's reporting that several listeners were allocated. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's an ESHA. So is it actually a leak, or is it just a false positive? A leak occurs when you continuously add event handlers without removing them. This, when you have a single emitter instance of normal times. The handler returns the next line in the stream. The stream is already in, return nothing. Every time you call next on stream, you add a handler unreadable. Where's that? Is that the promise? No, it's here. No. No, this is promise. You continuously have not removed them. Even if they will successfully... so the correct way to clean up your handlers is to make sure that after the promise resolves, a net 0 handlers are added. Clean up. Resolve. Remove listener. Okay, this is kind of useful. So what the pattern I want to do is I want to look for anything that has an on in my code and make sure I'm removing it in the cleanup function. Let's see. Crash might be caused by not removing any on handlers. I guess if I'm restarting the Express instance. Closing it doesn't automatically remove the handlers that Node as a overall system is handling. So that might be an important insight. Let me star this thing. So let me look in this code. What do I have any on? What handlers am I creating? Oops. Dot on. So dot on. There's nothing in here. And oops. So in gulp file on, nope. So looking not very gulp file, not doing anything like that. It should be in this. Or Express is doing it maybe. So I'm doing, what was that error? It was in what? Emitters, set max listeners. Let's go back to here and let's take a look at this again. Where is this happening? Server listen. And it's the E address in use. Wait a moment, that's a different error. We've got two. Possible emitter leak. That's the first crash. Then this happened. And then this happened. That happened later. I think. That wasn't there before. Then later on, this seemed to happen. The address in use, server listen, event emitter listen, no accept live application, happen server 01, line 126. Where's that? 126 is here. Start Express. This might be the listen handler that's causing the issue. Okay, let's try running the server again. And let's see if we can get this to crash a whole bunch of times. Alright. What I'm going to do though, I'm going to save this. Oops. And where am I going to put this so I can see it? I guess I'll unembiggen this. Okay, so now when I save 1401, it's not reloading because it's under the watch. If I save this one, reload 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, that did happen. So I did it 11 times and it crapped out. Probably because well, this warning got emitted. So if I save it 11 times, it hits this error because I'm adding listeners each time. So when I close, I'm going to guess if I close the Express server, I probably need to clean it up. What we can do is search for that. Let's see. Express server, clean up before close. Server clean up listeners. Unfinished. Grace will shut down a node. This should go net listening. Reliable close detection. Remove listener. And the function attached to the event handler, you just pass the function by name. Remove listener. Whereas on, oh, that's interesting. So you remove itself? What's RR? Request RR. Where is RR defined? Is that this guy's code? RR is a new event emitter. Move listener, removing all listener answers. Let's see. Let's try express or app express. Oh wait. Node net server remove listener before close. E-adder in use. This manual just is like a weird async thing. Create server, this close, listen, da da da. Stop the server. This seems like a trickier problem than that people aren't too clear on. Update. Shutting stuff down is tough. It's set to stop, but still listening. If you're running this close, you just need this connection on the ref. And keeping the process open. Attempts to keep the internal as simple as possible and track everything. People were still arguing this like a year ago. I don't know if this is related to my issue. Let me make a note of this. I think I'm at the point now that I just need to consolidate what I've looked at. So let's see how to do that. What causes a server crash? What do we know? The observed error seems to have two parts. A complaint. Node complains about multiple listeners being applied to the same object? Is that what it said? Or 11 closed listeners are added. Wait a moment. I wonder if being added, does this mean it's, which listener was it? As it add listener, I think it was a listener. The listener was then there was a crash. Address and use. Apparently in start server. And then there's an actual crash immediately afterwards. It's an unhandled error. Address in use. Let's start Express. Has added crash in use during 1401. What was it? 1401 start Express. We know that start Express is called by start server. So this suggests that there are multiple listeners being added, possibly in 1401 start server. Start server creates this thing. App is equal to Express. Express is the same module. That could actually be the same. Start Express the first time. It's resetting all these things. Maybe it's not. Let's try this. App fish sticks equals true. If app fish sticks console log got fish, else console log. So I'm thinking that start Express is here. It's looking for server. We have server, Express, and app. Is that right? Server, app, Server is an instance of HTTP server. App is an instance of Express, I think. Created Express. What I'm wondering if this is an instance, app is an instance of server. I'm reassigning it here. App is equal to null. But if I get Express again, it might be the same thing. And so I'm trying to construct a test to see if this app, if I assign a value to this and it lingers. Let's try this. App fish sticks or a 1. Console log app or fish sticks. App fish sticks. So what I think will happen here, if app fish sticks, the first time this runs, app fish sticks will be set to 1 or it'll be auto incremented. Oh. Equals app fish sticks. If it's true, if it's null, we want to set it to 1. Otherwise, no, if app fish is, we want to increment it. App fish sticks. Or we set it to 1. So if app is a fresh reference, we should never see we should never see app fish sticks increment by 1. But however, if calling express returns the same instance, then we'll see app fish sticks increment every time I save and the server restarts. I think. Let's see what happens. Let's go back to Sublime. Let's unshrinkenify. All right, so we're running this, and then over here on the side monitor. Over here we're running the game. I'm gonna refresh it a bunch of times. Alright, so that's still running. So let's save game run. That will force a refresh. 1. She did this 11 times. I could crash. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we're looking down to this corner, bottom left corner. 8, 9, 10. This should crash it, unless I've miscounted. Boom, it crashes. And I forgot to check to see if the fish sticks thing was loading. I don't see fish sticks at all. How come that's not happening? Reloads. I guess it's not restarting the server. It's not. Start Express. I would have thought that would. Let's try that again. Okay, fish sticks 1 did appear there. when I save this, okay, the first, I guess I cached it. It is, oh wait, it ran twice here. Why is that? Now it's just running reload. Okay, so that might, okay, it might be a more basic error. So this is only running twice, although that's still more than I expected it to. So it's, what's happening then, I had this other code that's running this in the first place, and that code's up here. It's only restarting the server, and then it returns the, okay, this only happens twice. This is still buggy though. Otherwise it calls app close, and then it calls start express. Start server is executed every time. So let's try putting our fish check in there instead. Start server. App is a global instance too, right? If app else console log app not set. Let's see what this does. Okay, boom. App isn't set the first time it run. This start server happened. So it went through and did all this sort of stuff. And I'm guessing, let's put some more debug stuff. Console log start express called. Is there a way I can tell app is equal to null? Let's see, if app console log start express called first time app is, oh wait, else if app is null. Now let's say if app, we can do this. If app is null, then that means we've set it. So log, unless do I set app to null up here somewhere? Nope, it's not set. App nullified. Let's make that something explicit. 0. Oops. That still validates falsy, but there should not be anywhere. Let's do an explicit. Going to do an explicit comparison to 0. App set before attempting server close. Let's set 0, or this should be called async from server close, is it? Let's big this again. So that's what that would be. But however, if app is set to something, then we've already initialized it. wonder if I'm... Let's get rid of this. If app is set already, app has already been set. The app will only be set if it's only the first time. If this is not restarting, then return the express app instance to caller. Start express first time call. That's what it's supposed to. Start express call async from server close. So the only two places where I think start express is being called. 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. Yeah. So those are the only ways I can get there. And server restart is determined whether or not server has been assigned. And server is only assigned here. Okay. Let's see if this matches expectations. Okay, let's reload this. Okay, so save. Fish sticks 1? I thought I got rid of that code. Maybe, is this cached? So save. Where is fish sticks still in here? I don't see it. Oh, that's the wrong file. Fish sticks. It's definitely not in here. Maybe I didn't save that. Okay. Start express, first time call. Express is running. I save this. Call async from... It's tempting to close the server again. It only happened once. Then what's adding these additional... What is this doing? I thought it was in my code. I thought I was like calling... Is it live reload that's screwing up? I think, boom. Maybe it's happening there. Maybe I'm calling start live reload multiple times. So, okay, let's look someplace else. Start, where else is the live reload stuff happening? Start live reload. This could be the issue. Console log. Start live reload. In fact, what address is in use? That would be a big hint. I assumed it was port 3000, but is it actually the live reload port? Add listener. Oh, it didn't completely crash yet. I did save it here, right? Address, no, that's port 3000. That's the regular port. That's the express port. Although this did not crash quite where I wanted it to. This might eventually crash by itself. Maybe in 2 minutes it'll crash. Start live reload. Just instrumenting this. Damn it. Instrumenting this to see what's running. The notify is already printing stuff out. That's not. Save that. It still hasn't crashed. Oh, there, it just crashed now. I'm thinking because it's taking a while to run because it takes a while to time out. But what would cause the timeout? Okay, start live reload is here. Shrink this down. Game run, save. Start express, codes async. So that should be fine. It's not being called after that. At least I don't think so. Start express. So it'll either do one of these two things. If start express is ever called at all. And so the rest of this code never runs. It only runs twice, which is what we expect. Actually, I kind of expected it to run more times. But my logic up here says server restart. Server close. Oh, maybe this is what's happening. Start express. If it closes it and then it runs it, I think start express needs to close the server. Maybe this needs to happen. It's interesting. Let's see what happens. All right. Start express live reload. Start live reload was only called once. I'm no longer seeing. Still gonna crash. Although I'm not seeing the second instantiation. It's still adding listeners to something. It's still happening on line 168. Which is doing what? It's calling start server. How come start server is not printing more messages? It's doing under configuration stuff here. I don't think server close is completing. Oh, wait. Start server. Oh, this isn't going to return what I thought it would. Server close will immediately okay, I was thinking that this could be the problem here. This might be returning some invalid reference. Because here we're returning start express. Start express returns something. Let me just fuck this up. Oh, this. Start express returns the server app. All right. I think now is the time. Oops. Error has occurred. Strange. Not sure what happened there. So the time has come. So I think start server returns void if it's async. But I don't think this is actually running immediately. I think this is timing out. Console log. Callback. Server close. Console log. Closing server. If this doesn't execute right away, then that suggests there's something else going on. There's probably just some subtle logic error that's happening here. So that's going there. I saved this a bunch of times. So it's closing the server. Oh, interesting. So it's closing the server, but it actually hasn't executed the callback at all. Why is that happening? So it's calling server close, and then eventually that should return. Why isn't server close closing? And that's why start express never shows up. Am I... Let's look at all the uses of start server. I think this might time out in 2 minutes and crash just by itself. Server... Oh, what was it? Start server? That's our issue. Start server is called by notify live reload once. Oh, it's also called externally. So the first time run server is called. When's run server called? Run server is called anytime server task is run, which is also the default build. So I need to look into the entire call chain. Does it crash yet? It's just closing, sitting on the closing the server. So that's probably why it's adding to so many listeners, maybe. So I save this again. I'm seeing another... Oh wait, no, look. This time it caught up. Did it? Closing server, callback server close. Start express called async. It happened twice in a row. Is that supposed to happen? Let me shrinkify this again. So if I save this, it's closing the server, now it's just sitting there. if I save this again, it calls closing server again, it's just sitting there. It's like it's not processing the closed server. Eventually it might time out. What happens if I reload this? Doesn't cause any crashes. I'm gonna look up HTTP node server close. I think server is an HTTP server, right? So this looks like create server. How do I shut down the node server immediately? So I'm looking at this. Tested. Added closing server. And then the function callback. What does it say? Callback server close to see if they are happening. The server close does not happen immediately. So I'm looking at this URL now. How do I shut down a Node.js HTTP server immediately? Can't do a process after servers destroy. The trick is you need to subscribe to the server's connection event, which will give you the socket of the new connection. You remember the socket later on having directly code server close destroy that socket using socket destroy. Ah. Looking at this. Create server. Request convention. This is different. This is not what I want. I had to keep track of all open sockets. So this is the I guess one difference is that this is the node server documentation. When I was looking expressly at the Express server documentation, forgetting that Express was built on top of the node server. But you would think that it might have shut down, they might have some extensions to it. Express has no app close. Graceful Node.js Express. Harding Node.js for production. Keep alive connections. Best shut down. I guess an option is just not to shut down the server. Can I do that? Well, there's a couple. One option is. Another option. This suggests tracking sockets and closing them manually to force the close. Do I really need to reload the server? I think I was doing that in the first place to try to reload the code, the server-based code in a watch. But this logic doesn't seem to do that anyway. All right. With some extensions. This does not always reliably happen. Oh look, over here we got a crash. Closing server. Called async from server closed. First time call, boom. So it's taking its sweet time closing. I wonder if it's because I switched away from this. Let's try that again. Gulp. Alright, let's save this twice. 1, 2. See, I'm seeing the server closes immediately happening. That one's happening immediately. That one's happening immediately. That one's happening immediately. So now it's working okay. As soon as I oh, now something's happening. Oh well. So now the clawbacks are working as expected. I'm not getting that I'm not even getting that error anymore. What the hell's going on? I wonder if I had nullified the server here. Start express called async from the server closed. So now it's running multiple times as I expected. Was this missing? It looks like every time I run node, it doesn't always refresh the source code it's loading from. It's caching it or something. I'm not sure. Oh wait, now it's not working anymore. Oh, I think one thing also is like saving these files. Oops. Saving these files, but I don't actually have this connected to it. So now, except it just died. Nope, I was saving the wrong file. Closing, now it's stuck. If this is running, so now I switch back over to here. Let me close this window. Let's try, so I save. Now it's like, maybe now I'll see that listening error. No, oh yep, there's the 11. So it's like when it backs up. So, and now if I connect back to that and try to go to demo, and I save it one more time. Okay, so it's like it's backed up on the closing queue. Sometimes it closes right away. Sometimes it runs the async success problem. But you know, actually, after the error with handlers, the error with multiple listeners occurs, Node may not be executing correctly anymore, even though live reload is working. So the key issue will be tracking down the bug that is adding multiple listeners. Let's close the server. Run that server again. Let's connect this. Let's save this 11 times. 1. It's closing the server, and it's completely not returning from it. So this is doomed to crash. Let's try this. Let's close this. Let's run it again. Save this. It returns right away if the app is not running, which is kind of interesting. So it looks like you can do this all day if there's nothing running. That makes sense because there is no server connection. There is no web connection. If the browser is not connected, then can save, reload, or they can save and live reload all day. However, if the browser has been served once, so let me run this once, and load this file project. Now if I save this, I think it's going to crap out. So now I can't close the server because I guess the live reload's holding it open. Or it takes a while for maybe there's a keep alive active. The server can't be closed while this thing is running. The connection can't close. If I close the window though, and save it again, it's still stuck. So I guess you had to close the socket too. Or if you close the socket, no, I guess that would work. So if what happens I connect to it again? I don't have this one reporting its connections. And now it's in a weird state. Still able to serve files from it because the server's still running, but it's in this intermediate closing thing. If I save it one more time, that triggers the live reload. Live reload operates independently of the HTTP server. So it appears that the entire system is working, but there's a stall in the closing server, which is in where was that? That would be, what is it? It's called closing server. there's a stall at the end of start server. Use of server close at the end of start server. Eventually, it probably times out and calls, but by then, start server is running maybe on an invalid, or was it start express? Start express. Maybe it gets called multiple times. Called multiple times in a row. I hear a booping noise. Where did the boop come from? I don't know. Something booped. Oh, that was the someone coming into the room boop? Or is that someone leaving the room boop? No one's written. Oh, someone IM'd me. That was what it was. Oh, there's issues with artifacts. Yeah, it might be related to the encoder. Or it's like dropping packets. I might have switched to a wired connection. So anyway, I think I have some stuff to think about. So tomorrow, up there, it finally crashed. And now look, server, closing server, callback server close, callback server close, callback server close. I was calling it a whole bunch of times in a row. Yeah, that's not supposed to happen. Yes, on a timeout, the server, the close callback is called multiple times. It's called multiple times in succession. And of course, the address is in use. So there. Okay. Alright. So this is a debugging session for now. What I need to do is rewrite this stuff. I will write this down to do tomorrow, after I've had a chance to sleep on it. Network devices, continuity, OG30, reviewed possible causes of server crash, read up on net server express extensions, zoo server, tried to see if callbacks were actually succeeding. It seems that if a browser connection is connected, the server can't close until something times out. And then a whole bunch of server inits happen at the same time, causing the in use. The multiple listeners one. I'm still not sure where that's coming from. We do know where it's initiated by. Multiple listeners. It's happening in 1401, 162-ish. Which was... Nope, actually I don't know where it is now. Well, let's see what the most recent crash was in line 138. No, wait, that's not the right one. I'm not even seeing the listener one. That doesn't always happen, I guess. So let's see what, I'm not sure what to do about that. So error doesn't always happen. Seems to be related to the non-setting of server in where was that? Server is equal to null. Start express. Close. And called as part of the server close callback. Next steps. Well, we could either rewrite the server startup so it's less convoluted. Think about direct message in Discord. Oh, that's what the boop was. Rewrite the service so it's less convoluted and avoids restarting the server, since we're not doing that anyway. Or rewrite the server so it's a separate node process from gulp and just process kill it. Well, it might be the better way of it, but think about that tomorrow. At least I have some stuff to think about. So I started this when? How long has this stream been going? 2 hours? So that's, I would say that's 2 billable hours of debug. So, and that was what I was trying to get to all day today. So anyway, there's my co-working for the day. Tomorrow I'm painting the living room, or rather my friend Kate is painting the living room. I had to clean off the walls tonight, and then I'm kind of fried now. So I am going to sign off for now and do something new tomorrow. And maybe I'll get this network bug fixed, and then I can move on to the next thing in this project. Whatever that is. All right, have a good night. This is Dave signing off.